Chapter 4: Social Welfare Policy in the 19th Century, 1789 to 1902. The beginning of America was finally taking traction. Settlement in the states had finally ventured outward. The U.S. population had spanned from the East Coast to the gold mines of California. During this vast movement west, the people moving out discovered that the soil was very rich and great for growing. But with that came lots of loans Americans took out to start their farming. The U.S. as a whole owed loads of money to foreign countries and mostly European countries. The American society was mainly an agriculture country. In the beginning of the 19th century, a massive movement was coming to the American land. The Moral Crusades were founded. In the U.S., a massive population was found doing sinful things, drinking, gambling, prostitution, and many more. Through the 1820s, a massive religious movement occurred, and people found religion in the Anglo Protestantism. Many social reforms occurred during this time. Temperance was one of the largest. The temperance movement was a push to remove alcohol in America. Before the Civil War, there was over 6,000 temperance chapters in the U.S., and they were trying to bring down one of the largest businesses ever. Crime, insanity, and alcoholism were widespread, and thus the reason for those movements. Oppression of women in the 19th century led to the outcoming of household roles. They were standing up and being political figures. Women were always confined to their homes as a house mother or house mom, and the movement was to be started by women, but just because they were plain bored at home and wanted to get out of the house and do something. After the Civil War, women entered into the temperance movement, doing charity work and also the church movements. Land policy in the 19th century was something to be looked at in history. With the purchase of the Louisiana Purchase, there was lots of land to be claimed by Americans. Americans were given the chance to buy unlimited amounts of property from the government, and with that, be able to distribute it to ex-slaves and Native Americans. Jefferson, while negotiating the purchase, adopted the policy to remove Native Americans, the removal policy. Though not as famous as the Trail of Tears in Jackson's term, it was to relocate natives to the west side of Mississippi. The Civil War was one of America's worst times to be here. There were many conflicts as to what the war was started by. Some say slavery, some say taxes, some say state rights, but who knows? We all have our own opinions. Reconstruction in the South after the war was one of the major tasks that this country had ever endured. Cities were burned to the ground and sermons last marched to the sea. Much of the South was destroyed. Lincoln had many decisions to face during this time, but then they eventually rebuilt the South to what it is today. In the 1830s, industrialization took off in America, mostly due to the vast immigrants that moved here from the European countries. These immigrants were cheap and hard labor workforces that built America to what it is today.
Created using Powtoon.